Okay, we are live on YouTube. Hey, YouTube. Let me go to Facebook now. Okay, and we are live on Facebook. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of All About That Dose. I'm here with Grizz, and we are super excited to be talking to you today about various spiritual topics, specifically the church that Grizz has been working on. So we'll talk a lot about the Natureza Church that he has, and also some other relevant topics, how that relates to microdosing and what that means for you. So Grizz, it looks like you're going to play us in with a little music.
Yeah, no, we joked about you throwing a curveball with some questions for me today. So I thought I'd throw a curveball. I wasn't planning on playing any music, but since we just had a ceremony, I thought I would share a song. Hopefully I haven't played this song on any of our other videos, but I think since we're so new with the podcast, this might be the first song. I know we did a song in our Facebook group when we first started the things in the group, but I don't know if we've done a song on the podcast. So this will be nice. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, loud and clear.
Everybody live and well on Facebook, and I guess we're live on YouTube as well.
I think so, yeah. I see us on there. Oh, Kara's watching. Sweet. Hey, Kara.
I don't know if you can see this ants, but that often so it can mean community. So like that's your spirit animal, or if that shows up in your life, the ants, it's encouraging us to connect deeper as a community. And so these are just some of the magical moments that happen when you tap into this medicine space. And so we're really excited to have you along and to share these magical experiences. So here we go. Akuya nawahe para he pare ma para he pare ma Akuya nawahe para he pare ma para he pare ma Akuya nawahe Akuya nawahe para he pare ma para he pare ma Akuya nawahe Akuya nawahe para he pare ma para he pare ma Akuya nawahe para he pare ma 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 pa he pa he re ma para he pa he re ma pa he pa he re ma para he pa he re ma pa he pa he re ma akuya na wa he para he pa he re ma para he pa he re ma.
Oh, thank you, Grizz. Man, that was really beautiful.
Thank you. So what are we talking about today, Amanda? I think we have some
I'm
stuff
putting you in the hot seat a little bit today, Grizz, because you are the one who is kind of leading this whole church thing with your community over there in Kentucky. So I am excited to talk to you more and find out more about kind of what you're doing, how you got started, and also just a little bit more about how you see it developing and evolving over time. So, why don't you start by telling everyone a little bit about who you are and all of the amazing experience that you have in the ceremonial space?
That sounds good to me. Yeah. Sounds great. Love this podcast, by the way. I love what you're doing with it. You're a huge part of everything, the design, the awesome way that logo looks, and just just making sure it happens. So
Oh, thanks, Grace.
this is great. The ant's back.
Nice.
So did you say that you wanted me to share more about, or you were going to share more? Sorry, I was sorry for the pause. I was waiting. I was like, okay, she was going to tell everyone about me. So I'm going to just sit back and listen. That'd be great.
You want me? No, I'm asking.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what she has to say about me.
All the wonderful qualities about who you are. Oh, heavens,
So
Grizz. Yeah.
So always been into nature. I was going to say spiritual, but always been spiritual as a kid, but I would say I didn't know what that meant at the time. So what feels more in alignment is I think I was always just deeply connected to nature as a kid. And I would say the spiritual component that really accelerated in my life was when our daughter passed away in 2013. And since then, we've done a ton of work around that. And while we, wouldn't wish that on anyone, we have found the best, beauty in the situation. And while some people might find that maybe harsh, we've actually been able to connect with her very deeply in the medicine space and outside the medicine space, connecting with her as she's in this other realm. And I really don't have the answers 100%. It's like, is this heaven? Is this God talking to me, or is this her? Is this nature? But there's different correlations when you put certain things out there in the universe, and then things respond. We think it's her, but since then we started getting into the plant medicine space, connecting with indigenous leaders from all around the world, learning from them, growing with them. I consider a lot of the indigenous leaders that I've worked with one-on-one my teachers. And so we've shared that knowledge with our community, and that's why it feels so good to be here in this space with the mushrooms and the mycelium network, because you can really see how we are extensions of the mycelium network. And I think I shared my views on what we are. But long story short, the trees told me in a ceremony, it was a very clear message, that we are extensions of the mycelium network. I know I was confused too. I'm like, hey, we're people, like we're humans, we're walking around. But I think I shared a video with you, Amanda. I don't know if you saw it, but I think his name's Terrence Howard. He's getting a lot of press on podcasts with like Joe Rogan, but he just did a podcast with Joe Rogan where he was showing some different science behind, like he was comparing the way our cells looked compared to certain things when you zoom in on a microscope with a plant. And he said they were like, I wasn't able to look at the image or research it, but from what it looked like and how they were talking, our cells and the cells, when you zoom into the plants, they're exactly alike. And so he was saying that we are the plants, like we're just like the plants. And so it really made me feel good that the message that I received from the trees was in line with what he's saying and what is getting a lot of press, and that we are extensions of nature, of the mycelium network specifically. And to give you an example, and this is what the trees told me, for those that are like, he's crazy, I know, but how I am traveling with my family down to the rainforest and receiving this ancient wisdom, this knowledge, this medicine, and bringing it back to my family here and my family here with Amanda and all of you. It's just like the mycelium network, how it works underground in the forest. So when a tree needs some support, it needs light, it needs energy, it needs food, the mycelium network is the vehicle where the trees can communicate to each other and share resources and bring knowledge to different parts of the forest. And so that's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what Amanda's doing. And so I'm a big believer, because I've seen it and I'm living it, that the fairy tales that they all told us growing up, that they all said were just fairy tales, they're just stories in books. A lot of you probably felt that magic as a kid and lost it as you grew up. But as we're reconnecting with this energy in our ceremonies, I can tell you it's real. I can tell you 100% fairies are real. And if you come to one of our ceremonies, you might have the pleasure of experiencing a fairy with your own eyes. They like to play games. And so in last ceremony, they took something of mine, and I was sharing with some people that were next to me that it was right on top of the cooler. And I was like, maybe the wind blew it. And so they have flashlights. There's 3 people looking all around. Move the cooler. It's just the cooler and grass. Can't find it. And so I told them that there's a little pro tip secret in ceremony, that if you've lost something, oftentimes the fairies like to play games. And if you haven't specifically given them an offering, then I would highly recommend exchanging something sweet in exchange for what you're missing. And so I think the people that were around me were still skeptical, but I found a bag of some sweets and some cranberries and some nuts, and I offered it to the fairies. I gave some to the fire. I outlined the fire with this, with these treats, and then I also put some at the altar for them. And I said, "Hey, here's your offering. I'm sorry I didn't give this to you sooner. I would love to have my stuff back, but if I don't get it back, it's yours. It's you can have it. You don't have to give it back." So literally 5 minutes later, I go to the bathroom. I come back, and I look right down next to the cooler, and there it is, what we were looking for. And they were right there. They couldn't believe it. They're like, "Oh my gosh!" And so it's real, and we're tapped into something very magical here. And so we were encouraged to start this church to protect this. I've given my life to this, and I don't want to die for this. I don't want to go to court or jail for this, but I am willing to die for this. I'm willing to go to court. I'm willing to be the face, and I'm so willing because I believe in it. And this is my religion. This is my spirituality. And having that faith is what will protect us and you if you decide to be a part of our vision here with what we're building with the church.
Whew, that is a lot that you have covered, my friend Grizz. Okay, let's just recap a little bit.
You gotta unpack that. Let me just.
So much powerful stuff. First of all, I am so deeply touched and sorry for your loss. And it sounds like it's really been an evolution for you on all levels of consciousness. And that journey has brought you through the pain and into this spiritual path, this belief system that has created opportunities for so much beauty and joy and even fun in your life. So like you said, it's not something that you'd wish on anybody ever. However, it does sound like you and your wife have really done a lot of work to move through it. So just huge kudos and love to your family around that delicate subject. And with that, you've been doing these ceremonies. How many years have you been doing ceremonies, and how many have you done?
It's such a blur, and one day we'll get my wife on here because she's like the statistics and the numbers and the if I don't say a certain word the right way, which I love, she'll correct me and, say, "Hey, you're supposed to say, this song this way or pronounce it this way." And I'm not very good with dates, but 2016, I believe 2017 was our first introduction into ayahuasca ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
I had in college with the mushrooms, but not in a sacred leading ceremony. But I started leading ceremony when our medicine man from Peru couldn't get into the country. And I was just put into this position where I had to start doing this. And I believe we've talked about it on another video. Maybe we'll save that for another video. But I've done it's well over 200 ceremonies. We've done somewhere in the upper 20 as far as big ceremonies where people come from all over and spend the night. It's usually like a 3-night type of retreat, and sometimes they're longer, but we have a lodge with food. And so we've done almost 30 of those where I've led that, and somewhere in the 200s as far as private ceremonies where there's maybe 5 people, or it's a private ceremony at their house or at our house. We call those micro ceremonies.
Wow, tons of experience. And so with all of this varied background in plant medicine and experiences and journeys and supports, tell me about the moment that you realized or had clarity around the vision of starting your own church.
Yeah. So I love what I'm doing and the path that's unfolding for me so much because of what I'm about to say with the answer to this question. But to kind of tie it all in, I didn't choose this. I didn't say this is I'm going to do it. I was divinely guided, and I'm trying not to say the word forced because I'm happily accepting the invite, but I was really put in a position where uh, I did not have any other choice. And so that's why I know I'm supposed to be doing this, and why I'm so confident with what we're doing. And so even with the church idea, it was always on my mind, but I didn't have a clear answer on if we should start a church, if we should stay underground and just be underground like we have been. The Huni Queen tribe that we work with, we also work with the Yawanawa, but the Huni Queen who were here most recently, they really encouraged us to start a church for protection. They needed protection for when they came here and shared in this same spirituality, this same religion, this same church. They needed protection when they served the medicine that they work with. And it also, they said, protected all the members that were coming. And it also now protects the members here working with the mushrooms. And I think that was was that your question? So the tribe really encouraged us to start the church. We started it this year, and as long as we do it the right way, and I think we will get into that here shortly as far as what the right way is and how that protects us. But it really feels good that the tribes support the idea of a church, because I was always against it. You know, I was always like, the church was tied to like maybe a certain religion, and the church isn't tied to a specific religion, is what I'm finding and really feeling and believing and having to own. And so it feels really, really good in alignment now to start Natureza and have the support of the tribes.
Yeah, definitely. You have amazing spiritual connections and just deep global. It's that mycelium network, right? You're living that, you're creating that with this church on a very social web platform. So you mentioned about religion. So I am curious, how do you feel that the spiritual container of your church, which we'll go into that a little more deeply in a minute, but how do you feel that intersects with major religions or minor religions of people that might be interested in coming into your church?
Yeah, so we could probably do a whole podcast on just like religion and spirituality and gods and God, like,
And we will. For
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Again, I don't know all the answers, but I feel like we're all God. Like everything is God, and so you know, I've experienced Hindu gods with the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I was never, I didn't even know who these gods were. And that's why I know it's real, because it just came into my head in this vision, and I was transported into this room where I saw these beings. And, you know, I say this again, and I try to be transparent with everybody. This has just been my experience. It's my truth, but I can't say it's 100% truth, because um, it was just I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought, but it was just my vision. And man, there was a point to this.
Religion. If someone is Christian or
Yeah,
Muslim or Jewish, how are they going to experience will there be any contradiction, or will there be any
yeah, there was.
adversity to the
Yeah,
teaching?
I was gonna. There was something else to that. Maybe it'll come to me. But yeah, so the moral of that, yes. So I was able to experience, these. Okay, that was the point. Good. So I was gonna say I had never seen these gods before, but maybe like subconsciously, like I saw it when I was little, or like I saw it in a book and I just don't remember it. So that's why I'm like, I'm 99% sure don't I don't remember. I'm 100% sure I don't remember seeing it, but I can't say 100% if I did not ever see that and maybe just didn't remember. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, these beings came to me and I had never remembered seeing them before. And so after ceremony, I went back and like researched it and found like, oh my gosh, this is a real thing. They're part of the Hindu religion. I've also seen Jesus and Mary in an ayahuasca ceremony. I also feel like I've seen what I think is the devil in a ceremony. And so, and it was, I've never felt closer to Jesus. I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of things like that where it was tied to like religion. But with that being said, and to answer your question even more specifically, I think the medicine really taps you in to your spiritual beliefs even deeper. And if you're open-minded, you may even be able to experience other religions. But I don't think, and this was actually how I felt in the beginning of my medicine path. I thought it was separate from religion. I thought it was, you know, yeah, this religion, but I really think it just opens the door, and it's kind of its own thing. But it just because you work with the mushrooms or ayahuasca doesn't mean you're cheating on your God or whatever you believe in. I think it strengthens your connection to whatever you believe in, and it's been my experience that it will give you a different perspective, and I think help you grow in your religion and spirituality.
That's what I've seen in my experiences as well. It tends to deepen the relationship with your own spiritual path, whatever it is. So it's not, it's very complementary depending on what what you have, what your consciousness is kind of oriented toward with religion, whether it's a mainstream religion or something more secular or something less common. You will deepen into it, and I think there is some valuable perspective that is granted, but I find that it's done in a way that doesn't necessarily contradict with your own spiritual teachings. You may come to different conclusions, you may not. You may just deepen into where you currently are. It's really it is pretty universal, which I think is why plant medicine has been used for thousands of years in these ceremonial practices across every world religion. Well, let's go back to the church, if that's okay, so we can keep things moving here. Um, Tell me a little bit about so you've started this church. It's happening. It's in process. What would you say your primary mission is for this church?
So I kind of think about the vision when I think about the mission.
Hmm.
The mission really is to just be an authentic, strong frame for the door that we're opening into nature so other people can experience this real magical side to life and bring in more joy and love into their life.
I love that. I mean, that's pretty universal and authentic, and it resonates with a really high vibration. Yeah.
So yeah, that just I think our mission is somewhere, and I should have it memorized. We just started things, but that just came from my heart, and I feel like that
Hmm.
that is our mission. So we'll have to go back and watch this recording and take that.
Hmm. Write it down.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So, an interesting thing with these types of churches, and there are several out there currently operating, is the belief that plant medicine is the sacrament, and that's really kind of the reasoning behind developing an official container, an official church, is to get these legal protections for using these plant medicines in this ceremonial or spiritual way. So can you go into a little more detail as far as like why well, first of all, which plant medicines are considered sacrament for Natureza, and also why are they considered sacrament? Can you walk us through a little bit like how that works and why it's a thing?
Yeah. So I don't know if we're going to talk about the Religious Freedom Act. It's also the RFRA is what the abbreviation, if anyone wants to.
Yes, I definitely do want to talk about that. So we are heading there.
Okay. Okay. So what was the question? Sorry. I'm easily.
Sacrament.
Yeah.
How are plant medicines how does that even work?
Yeah. So, just like with other churches, there's sacraments. For us, our sacrament is not wine or bread, or I don't know what other religions use to connect with their God or their spirituality or religion.
Mhm.
For us, we have three sacraments, and it's deeply tied into the indigenous that we work with. And so the first sacrament is ayahuasca. So ayahuasca is, for now, only served by the indigenous tribes. And that's how that ceremony works. And so with the religion and with our church, I have found in my research, to do it the right way, there has to be rules. It just can't be willy-nilly. We're just going to go out here and do some mushrooms or do some ayahuasca. Um, there's certain rules with and specifics that are attributed and correlated to certain ceremonies. So the ayahuasca ceremony, when the Huni Queen come here, or when we go there, we work with ayahuasca. Same with the Yawanawa. When they come here, we go there. The chiefs are the ones that are serving that. When we work with the Yawanawa, they only work with, so that ceremony, we only work with ayahuasca. We don't introduce mushrooms. We don't introduce cannabis. Those are our other two sacraments. So you have to be strict in order to do this the right way. When the Huni Queen come here and we have that specific ceremony with them, it's ayahuasca and cannabis. They're the only tribe I know that works with cannabis and ayahuasca. So in a ceremonial setting, when we're working with these medicines, we're protected. Now, you don't have protection if you were to just be smoking weed in your car or selling weed in a parking lot and think that, hey, I'm part of this church. They said that, I'm protected. This sacrament is legal for me to have. that's not the case. So there are rules. This does have to be treated as a sacrament in a ceremonial setting. And it's the same with the mushrooms. We have a specific ceremony we do here with the mushrooms. And again, as long as we do it right, as long as we respect the ways of the indigenous and we learn and they support what we're doing, we are going to be protected. The Eagle and the Condor Church just proved that 2 weeks ago, where they took their legal battle to court. Their sacrament ayahuasca was seized, and they went to court about it. And they're the first non-Christian, non-Catholic church to receive the blessing, essentially, to legally have this medicine, ayahuasca. So they can ship it, they can have it, they can carry it on a federal level. They cannot be prosecuted. The Santo Daime Church is another one that can operate like that. But this really paves the way for us because they work with someone in the Shipibo lineage. It's a certain indigenous group out of Peru. But there's a lot of parallels with how they do things and how we do things with the indigenous. So it sets a precedent. It's the first church of our kind to get this clearance. And so it really paves the way for churches like us that are doing it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense that there would be rules both for legal protection and also for just religious honoring, right? For spiritual honoring. You want to have some type of a container within which you are communing with spirit or God or universe or the greater one, whatever you call it. That makes total sense why there would be rules and why you'd want it to be strict. And also for safety and harm reduction. We don't want people out there, like you said, driving a car and smoking weed and calling that part of their spiritual practice, because that is not safe, people.
Yeah. Or even me serving ayahuasca. I feel like, and I've been told this many times and encouraged, and I was going to say tease, but the carrots out, where people are saying you can do it. I could serve ayahuasca. I have access to it, but I don't, because I feel like at least the rule that I have in my mind is that I need to, at the very minimum, spend a year down in the rainforest in isolation in a dieta specific for connecting with the sacrament ayahuasca. And even then, I wouldn't feel like, oh, now I have a right to serve the medicine. It would take a lot, just like it has for me to be serving these mushrooms. It's not something I take lightly. It's something I've pushed away so much. And so with that being said, this ties into the rules, where there's certain rules that I have and values that I have to live by, that I just feel like is in my soul and my DNA. Being the visionary for this, I have to adhere to that. And so that's going to protect us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can really hear how you view your relationship with the medicine and working in service with the medicine as a true honor and a privilege, and treating it with that level of sacredness is really clear. It's really, I can feel that emanating from you. Yeah. So I'm curious though, this kind of leads me into my next question. How do you feel that these sacraments, these medicines, facilitate spiritual growth and healing? Because that is one of the tenets of these churches, right? Is that these sacraments are essential for our spiritual growth. And that's why we demand this protection under the Religious Freedom Act. So how, in your experience or in what you've maybe seen from others, how do you feel that these sacraments facilitate spiritual growth and healing?
Yeah, so that ties directly into the Religious Freedom Act. And to sum up what the Religious Freedom Act does for people like us, you, me, is the scenario they like to put is if a law or something the government is doing prevents you from pursuing your religion or your spirituality, then this Religious Freedom Act can help you out. And so, for example, certain shots or, certain medicine that might be required or was in the past required for certain jobs, some people were saying that went against their religion, and that would prevent them from pursuing their religion. So they enacted the Religious Freedom Act to help put some weight behind them not having to get a specific medicine or shot to work at the job. And so same with us. So you have to ask yourself, because it is illegal, cannabis, psilocybin, ayahuasca, it is illegal here in Kentucky. So the scenario is, if it's illegal and we don't let you commune with this medicine, so if you could not commune, if you could not work with ayahuasca as a sacrament, could you still pursue your spirituality and your religion? And so it's a yes or no question. So if we could still practice our religion, our spirituality, our connection to nature without taking ayahuasca, so if you took that out of my life, could I still fully practice? And the answer is no. And so by it being illegal and technically saying, no, you cannot have ayahuasca, that prevents me from pursuing Natureza, my religion, my spirituality. The same with the mushrooms. So if you took mushrooms away, sorry, I had an alarm. If you took mushrooms out of my life, could I still connect with nature like my religion and church guides me, and how I at my core am guided? The answer is no. Cannabis. If you took cannabis out of my life, and I know a lot of these things, people might be like, oh, are you an addict, or you can't live without cannabis? Or, I've gone without cannabis for years, 6 months. I can stop taking ayahuasca at any point. I can stop taking mushrooms at any point. It's not an addiction. It's more of like just empowering our beliefs. And so this is especially true with the Huni Queen. They work with cannabis. And if you said that we could not work with cannabis for those ceremonies, they would not happen. We cannot practice our spirituality, our religion, without all three sacraments. And so that is, I don't remember your question specifically.
Yeah, no, I think that covered it. Yeah, and I just had a thought around that. So it's kind of like, talking about need versus essential, right? So you kind of came at it from two different perspectives. So looking at it like, oh, it's not an addiction. That's more of like a deficit-based motive, right? In this case, with religious access, spiritual access, it is a tool that allows access to this greater sense of spirituality, and it is an essential tool in that process. So it's not a deficit-based need. It is a growth focused, and
that's why I love you so much. You're like the analytical, and so yeah, I mean that's so true. Because yes, I see, whatever addictions we have as like we're grasping at something to fill this void, to fill like not being whole, or to, you know, like you said, the deficit with the addiction versus with this, it feels like more, okay, let me go back. The other one feels like I'm taking something that's not a part of me and adding it to me to feel whole,
Mhm.
versus with the religion and the sacraments, I'm keeping what I feel is me and what makes me whole. And if I don't have it, it's pulling away from me at a core level, you know, versus, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
You,
does.
you,
It does.
you
I love this conversation. I think it's super interesting. A little
like us
twist
at the
off of that.
core is the medicine. Like me at the core, like is the plants. Like, you know, we
Mhm.
talked about it at the beginning. I feel like some type of plant or deeply connected. And so it's not about like, yeah. So like if that, it's like my heart or my finger, you know, like if I didn't have it, I'd be missing it. But it's not like an addiction where I need my finger, right? It's just like, no, I'm supposed to have my fingers.
Mhm. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're looking at, because I know like in our mentorship, we have the medicine as a part of that. So what are your thoughts on how microdosing, how psilocybin in very small amounts, how does that work into this conversation around sacrament, this idea around sacrament and spirituality?
So this is exactly what we talk about as far as communing with the sacrament, as far as having a prayer, a daily prayer. And so this mentorship gives you that opportunity to really treat this in a very serious way, something you might not be accustomed to or used to. And that's why we're here. But with the mentorship and microdosing, you have the opportunity to really treat and embrace this idea of this church and these medicines as sacraments. And so every day you'll have an opportunity to deepen your connection to your spirituality, to whatever you believe in, with this medicine. And it is fits in perfect alignment with the church and what we expect from the members.
Yeah. Interesting, right. And with the idea of sacrament and microdosing, there is a spiritual component. It feels secular, so it's not like we are down one particular channel or speaking a particular spiritual language. It is more about the spirituality of consciousness, which is universal and applicable to whatever you believe. So I feel, at least in my own practice, that when I take my microdose, I am opening myself to the greater spiritual nature of the universe, of this truth, of this anchor. Like it supports my anchoring deeply into my own healing, into my own growth. Um, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's interesting though, like with the way this is all going with the legal framework, because it is not legal in most places still. So there are challenges. How is Natureza addressing or navigating some of these legal challenges that are out there right now?
So it helps having financial backing. And so I'm blessed to have people very close in my life that, um, yeah, have a lot of money and can support us if we need $500,000 for bail money, if we have to go to court and get bailed out. We will win, but it still requires that financial backing. And so we just continue to do it the right way. And I've found that, when when you're connected to nature in such a deep way, you're just supported. You know, how do I go through all of the airports during COVID down in South America without my COVID verification? My phone died and I had lost my paper. And so they were requiring it at every checkpoint to show them and to present the verification that we have a negative COVID test. And the medicine just magically allowed my daughter and I to travel. We didn't know their language, so we were just totally screwed, for lack of a better term. If someone checked us and made us present our, negative COVID test, I wouldn't even know where to get one. We're in these countries in South America, these these small airports, and I don't know how, but it just happened. And so when you do it the right way and you try to just come with just an open heart, I think a lot has to do with the heart, but we're protected, and that's the only way I can say it. And I've seen that when people don't do it the right way, for lack of a better term, you're taken out of the game. And so we're still here, and I'm just honored to be a student of nature.
Yeah, and I found in my own experience, the more aligned I am with a deeper purpose that's not just egocentric, right? It's not just about me, a deeper purpose for humanity, for consciousness, for the collective. The more aligned I am with that, the more synchronicity happens in my life. So it feels like that was kind of what was happening for you, being so deeply aligned that there were a lot of synchronicities that came into that experience of traveling without your COVID documentation internationally, which sounds crazy when we look back and think about that time, but somehow it all worked out for you. I do want to switch gears just a touch. So for moms, let's say, who are wanting access to microdosing for healing, for spiritual growth, what advice do you have for them that they might be considering either joining with us, or I know there's other options out there too? What advice would you give to a mom who's looking and worried about these legal risks?
So I've learned to not convince anyone. You can lead a horse to water, right? And you can tell people about all these magical experiences, but the people that just feel it in their heart, if you're watching this, if you're like, wow, I really connect with these people, I encourage you to just keep following the breadcrumbs. You're here for a reason. Don't stop. Worst case scenario, you invest a couple $100 into something like that. I like those odds. If I was gambling or doing some kind of lottery, picking numbers, to what I would say, gamble $500, $200. Let's just say, even at our highest level, $2,000, to literally transform your world. So visualize your dream life. And this is what I do with a lot of my past clients. Visualize that. What is your dream life? I am living my dream life, and all these magical opportunities are happening. And so think about all the times all the things that you spend money on, or maybe you do lottery, or you play, bingo or whatnot. This is the prize, I feel like, is literally, it's millions of dollars. I cannot put a price on this. So my question is how much is it worth to you? I know me, I would happily pay $10,000, whatever. If I had the money, $50,000 for this level of joy, because I feel like it's hard. You can't buy it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. This medicine, it's really hard to buy and to find something as special as what we're creating.
Mm-hmm.
And so my sister came to ceremony 2 nights ago for the first time. Her first time doing it. She did it by herself. The setting was off, but she took a chance. She did Hape with us. She worked with, that's another medicine we work with. And she had the best experience. She's like, oh my gosh, like, what was I scared of? What was I, and I share that because sometimes, fear can play a role in preventing us from really following our heart, conditioning, right? What our parents are telling us, how we grew up, fear, fear, fear. But my advice is to follow your heart, is what I've been saying. If you feel a connection, what do you have to lose? And I know, me personally, I don't think we like advertise this, but everything it's money back guarantee. I don't, even my ceremonies, I know it's all going to work out. And I'm so confident that, like, I'm throwing this out there. What do you have to lose? I'm going to put working with us. If you don't get what you expect, if you don't have the experience that you expect, I will give you your money back. That's how confident I am. So
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely has this ineffable, priceless quality for sure. As we're starting to come to a close and wrap up, let's I'm curious as to, because you've done a lot of work with indigenous tribes and the ceremony space, these big, amazing experiences. So, what are some lessons that we can learn from from indigenous wisdom and traditions when it comes to plant medicine and spiritual healing, specifically like in today's modern mom life, which is busy, chaotic, stressful, and it is a whole thing if you're in your season of life where you're raising children. So what lessons might be applicable to someone in our situation from indigenous wisdom or traditions?
Mm-hmm. So there's two kind of angles I look at it. This is one is for the mom with the family, with the kids. The other is for the mom, but she's more into the magical, spiritual, sacred side, and they want to go deeper into that. But as far as like the moms with the children, and they have a lot of responsibilities and day to day, what we're tapping you into, you can trust. If you trust me, if you trust Amanda, you can trust this medicine is going to work magic into your life. So it's going to give you what you ask. It's going to soften you. It's going to soften your reactions to your kids. It's not going to give you visions and hallucinations and make it to where you can't function. It's going to enhance your life. And I would be surprised if you didn't receive some type of connection or download to share with your kids that takes that relationship to another level. Now, for the other moms that are wanting to tap more into the magical side, hands down, you're going to hear from the trees. You're going to hear from the animals. They're going to talk to you. So if you think that's weird, it's probably not the space for you. But if you're still listening to this, I'm talking to you, and birds are going to make noises and give you answers when you have questions. And it's going to really it's going to take your spiritual practice to a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that I am in both camps of people that you described. Busy, lots of stuff going on, and also just very nature centric. And it's interesting because you frequently talk about trees talking to you and getting answers from wildlife, and I love that. And for me, it manifests as like messages, right? So it's not like I'm hearing words or phrases when I'm out and about. Like I had this really powerful meditative experience. And I know we're at an hour, so I'm going to make this quick, but I had this really powerful meditative experience on one of my bike rides several months ago. And it it anchored me to a truth that was bigger than just about anything I'd ever felt. This was on a microdose. This was on like I was not, altered, like visibly altered in any way. However, the connection that I had with the tree. I got off my bike and I laid under this tree in the shade and was just staring up at the leaves. And this connection that I felt was deeper and more poignant than any verbal exchange or even message that could be communicated. It was like this instantaneous connection. It was like the entangled particles, right, where they can communicate their rotation even light years away from each other without any transfer of data. So it was like having that moment with a tree where we just knew each other. It's deep, and it's profound.
It's almost as if you are part of the mycelium network.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah. Oh man. Well, Grizz, this has been so cool learning more about the church and just diving into it, talking about the future of it and where it's heading and what we're doing. I think that there's big things happening in this space, and I am excited. I am like jumping out of my skin, excited to be part of it and to be moving forward and just a voice of normalization for this whole movement, because people deserve access to this as a tool for their spiritual growth and healing. And for this podcast, all about that dose, we will be talking about all sorts of things as we keep going and just getting better and better every week. So if you have particular topics that you would like us to cover, or if there's anything that you want to know about, or that, or even somebody you want interviewed, feel free to reach out to myself or Grizz, and we will definitely take that into our research. We have an ongoing list of ideas for topics for future weeks. So reach out for sure. Otherwise, yeah, thanks, Grizz, for coming on and being with me again this week. And we will connect with everybody in the Facebook group or on YouTube. And otherwise, yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful week.
Thank you.